Today we're going to talk about how to manifest using Joe Dispenza's teaching. But more importantly than that, I want to dive into the one thing that makes change hard and is preventing your manifestations coming to fruition quicker than you would like. So as we get into this, let's just kind of start from the top. In a lot of my videos, we talk about the quantum field. We talk about our access to the infinite potential, but it's time to kind of dive into those concepts deeper and really get into the nitty gritty stuff that's actually preventing you and causing restriction and friction in your life and preventing those manifestations from coming to life. So Dr. Joe Dispenza opens up his book, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, by talking about the quantum you. The quantum you is where he uses science and research to change the concept of yourself, to change the view you have of yourself. Why is this important? Because back in the day, like when we used to have Newton and Descartes, those old scientists, they believed that the physical world was set in stone and it was systematic, it was mechanistic. There was actually going to be no way to change it, to see an alteration in order to create a better life for ourselves. But Einstein proved those dudes wrong. And it was with the simple equation that everyone knows, E equals mc squared. And the most important conclusion that scientists came to when diving into this wisdom further was they realized that mind and matter are actually two sides of the same coin. Now let's break that down. How could mind and matter be the same? So we got mind and we got matter. Now, I'm going to plant some seeds right now, but if you've ever heard anything about the mirror principle, I want you to look at this drawing, right? Imagine it's a mirror and that the matter reflects what the mind holds internally. But we're going to dive into that a little further once we break down this concept. So, at the core of our experience, I'll just draw a cool looking atom, even though it may not be scientifically correct. All right, here is our subatomic particle. Now, on a micro level here, we have the electron cloud. And this electron cloud is 99.999% energy. This is going to be important to understand because this is where you start to realize mind becomes matter through the laws of the quantum physics. And that's why he opens up the book with the concept, the quantum you. Now, we know on the subatomic particle level, energy exists as waves and particles simultaneously. Now, how could this be? How could the fabric of our experience be in and out of immaterial and material? That's what's so fascinating to me. That's what kind of has blown my mind time and time again. And that's where we start to realize the mind is matter. Because energy is conscious. That 99.99% energy that is the fabric of our experience, it is conscious, it is aware. Just like we are consciousness, and that consciousness is energy. That's where the coin starts to flip, and you start to realize it's the same thing. Now, what they discovered was in order for the subatomic particle to go from a wave of infinite potential, meaning there's just endless possibilities of how this could collapse into the physical world, all it took was an observer. All it took was someone to look for the electron cloud in reality. Now, why is this so important? And how does this tie back to the one thing that prevents people from changing? And it prevents people from actually manifesting a better life. Now, we know that our thoughts and our emotions are energy. And Dr. Joe Dispenza put it like this. He says, imagine your thoughts are the wavelengths in which you send information into the quantum, right? We send out that intention. We send out that thought about the better life we want to have. And emotions are how we electromagnetically draw that reality back to us. And when these two wave patterns are at the same frequency, when they are of equal wavelength size, which is frequency, we impact the fabric of experience, right? We impact that energetic potential. That 99.99% energy is actually impacted by our thoughts and our emotions. The one thing that's preventing you from manifesting is your subconscious programs. Now, these subconscious programs are a layer below your conscious thought. It's 90% of your being. Now, how do we do something about this subconscious? How do we change the subconscious? Well, I've noticed a lot of people are always talking about, okay, we have to get into a meditative state. We have to change the thoughts we have. We have to change the emotions we have. But how do you actually know you're in a meditative state? And that's going to be one thing that we're going to break down. But I'm drinking coffee this video because it's in the morning and, Now, there's 3 things we're going to need to look at to know we've entered a meditative state where we can actually start to reprogram our subconscious mind. And what I want to touch on is how your body, your environment, and time are the 3 anchors and the 3 constructs that keep you anchored to a program. It keeps you anchored to a familiar experience. It keeps you anchored to the reality that you're actually trying to move on from. So if the outer world, right, if the environment controls what you think and feel, your patterns and your neural pathways in your brain are going to be equal to that of the environment you experience. So let's start with the environment. One more sip for good luck. Right, we're going to start with the environment because this is where everyone looks for validation. Now, stay with me here. 99.99% energy. What actually is the environment? That's 0.0001% of the spectrum of energy that we're experiencing. Which means that if you're using your environment to determine any type of validation for yourself, you are grasping for crumbs on the spectrum of our total experiment. So when we meditate, right, when we get into deep states of meditation, the goal is to have no body, no mind, no time, and no environment. This is a place where we actually start to detach from the physical things that anchor us to a low frequency experience and allow us to step in to our natural state, to step into the quantum field, to step into the infinite intelligence. Because that's what the quantum field is. It's just energetic potential and it's information being transmitted through and in and out of space and time, right? It exists outside the constructs of space and time because the physical world is only what gives us the time and the physical construct. So when we start to overcome our environment, we start to become bigger than that experience we are having. And that's the sensation you're going for. 1, no longer defined by the environment. And 2, you want a grander sense of self. Why do we want a grander sense of self? Because when we look at the environment and we are observing and interacting with the familiar experience, and we're allowing that circuitry and we're allowing that subconscious program to validate our experience, then we're only going to experience that equal of proportion to the environment, that of equal proportion to the physical world. But as soon as we can overcome our environment, we can overcome the old group of friends we're trying to move on from. We can overcome the partying. We can overcome that job we have. we can realize that those things aren't defining us because we have a concept of the quantum you, right? The quantum self. This is what it means in spirituality when they say know thyself. Because Grant right here, even though I'm filming and I'm doing content and I'm trying to build a business, on a core foundational level, I'm so much more than that. I'm connected to life itself. That this is just merely a glimpse of the total experience that I have. And you should rest and find peace in knowing that there's a natural harmony. And that what's going on is bigger than any problem we could fixate on in our environment. And in states of meditation, but more importantly, in your walking meditations throughout life, when life throws you curveballs, when life throws you challenges, can you anchor yourself in this awareness? Because truth always remains. The chaos of life will arise and it will pass away. But you're always connected to the source. And that's how we unlock a grander sense of self. Now, we also need to move past the environment, but also past our bodily experiences, right? Because on a foundational level, that's the most immediate source of experience we have, right? So, without getting too technical, your brain releases chemicals from thoughts. And when these chemicals are released, they enter hormone centers in your body, right? So different receptor centers throughout the course of your nervous system, throughout the course of your hormonal system. And when they anchor into that place, they cause a feeling. So if you have a negative thought, oh my God, I'm never going to do that. I'm never going to build that business. I'm never going to get the girl. Your brain literally releases a chemical, and that chemical anchors to the hormone receptors, and you feel that. And when you feel that, it validates that experience. You're like, oh my God. But you're creating this false reality. And when you feel that, that feeling causes more negative thoughts. So this is what the subconscious program is. This is that endless cycle. And it goes on and on and on unless you can step in and do something about it. This is why we must overcome our body, because they're sensations. If you really break this down, the reason we meditate is because we want to create space in between our thought and our impulsive reaction, the reaction to that thought. If you're engaging on this cycle, that karmic loop to some degree, you are not giving space for things to arise and pass away without you resisting that, right? So another thing that's preventing your evolution and preventing your ability to reprogram your subconscious mind is resistance. I had this revelation this weekend. And it was, I actually don't need to try. I just need to stop resisting. And how? How does that make sense, Grant? Well, let's break it down. When you're resisting something, you're saying, I don't want this experience. That's cool, but the universe and the quantum field does not speak the English language. It speaks the language of energetics. Now, what are you signaling to the universe when you're resisting an experience? You're signaling a lack of alignment. You are stepping out of the harmony of the natural organizing power of the universe. And when you step out of the harmony of the natural organizing power of the universe, you're signaling misalignment. You're signaling, hey, this is an experience I don't want. almighty universe, I don't trust you. I don't have faith in you. So of course the universe is going to give you exactly what you're looking for. More experiences to validate the energetics you're putting off. When something arises that you don't want to experience, you just need to become aware of the fact that it will go away, whether you fight it or not, and that your resistance to it and the fighting is actually the thing that prolongs that cycle of arising and passing away. So let's break this down where if you have an impulse to react to a certain thing, and without thinking, you engage in a reaction, then you are allowing this subconscious program to take over, meaning you are not allowing this space in between for you to step in and do something about the operational pattern that you're experiencing. So if you experience this impulse, like, oh my God, my girlfriend cheated on me. My girlfriend cheated on me. I'm never going to find love. Boom, you're going to have a reaction, meaning a similar experience, a similar action, something that you do not want, you're actually going to experience more of because you are not giving time and space in between. But if you experience this impulse, and with the new awareness, right, the idea of the quantum self, the hey, I can overcome the impulses of the body, I can overcome the impulses of time, I can overcome the impulses of my environment, then we can tap into the quantum field right here. Because what is it when you do not act? When you are non-reactive and you are being, you are present. And when you are present, which is something you find in states of meditation, you are actually naturally in alignment with the universe. Like, think about it. If you have no mind, no impulse, no misalignment with the harmony that is, you are aligned with the highest frequency. You are aligned with the 99.99% energy that is the quantum field. I want you to sit on that. Think about that for a second. If in between the impulse, right, the chemicals released from a thought, you can take a deep breath and realize, hey, if I follow this rabbit hole, I'm going to engage in the actions and experiences I do not want to engage in. That's okay. But we can slow down. We can realize, hey, if I resist this impulse, if I resist this feeling, I'm only going to create more of that. I'm only going to validate it and think about how I'm having the experience I don't want to have. And when you think about the experience you don't want to have, that karmic loop and that cycle starts again. That's why we engage in patterns. We engage in subconscious patterns. Because without this awareness, awareness means conscious, you are not consciously aware of what it takes to change. And the change isn't fighting, it's letting it be. It's coming back into alignment, evolving your concept of self. And when you do that, you can truly unlock the ability to manifest. Because you are no longer fighting something, you are no longer resisting something, you are actually aligning with the frequency you want to experience. So the more consistently you do that, the more consistently you're going to have that experience into your life. I had to learn this the tough way because I was $80,000 in debt. I was addicted to smoking weed. My girlfriend cheated on me. Like, when I tell you I was in a living state of hell, I was in a living state of hell. But the more I resisted that, I would just experience the karmic loop every day. The more I would judge myself every day for being in debt, for not doing more business to come out of that debt, for eating like shit and not taking care of myself in the gym, I would numb my pain at night by smoking. And when I would smoke, I'd be like, oh my God, why are you doing this? You need to stop this. You know what it takes to change. And I'd have those thoughts that validate those feelings. Until I created space in between the impulse and the reaction. And I came to the moment and said, hey, everything about yesterday is an impulse. It's a figment of my imagination. And everything about tomorrow is anxiety. It's a worry I don't have to deal with yet. And when I truly understood this concept, I could be present. And in the present, I could create that change. I could create new actions, new neural pathways. You know what? I'm gonna do 15 minutes on the Stairmaster. You know what? I'm not gonna eat Taco Bell. You know what? I'm not gonna smoke that weed. Then I was having a new experience. This is something that Joe Dispenza says that I like a lot. So, we all have goals. We all have dreams. Here's the current version of you, the current plus past as you look to evolve. And here's the future version of you. Now, what Joe Dispenza says is, how can you expect to create a new experience with a familiar understanding? He says that manifestation is supposed to take place in an exciting manner. You're supposed to be comfortable with the unknown. You're not supposed to know how it's going to unfold, know how it's going to manifest. Because you only have past experience. How is something of your past going to create a future experience if it's actually the thing you want to avoid? But over here, all you can do is align with the new frequency of the future. And aligning with this new frequency of the future is actually just stepping out of the resistance, right? Because this version of you that exists in the past is resisting the things that you don't want, right? Oh my God, I shouldn't smoke weed, but I'm still gonna do it. You know what, just take that first break. You're all good. Then you're starting to change your frequency. You're starting to exist in a future reality. When you can channel that frequency long enough, the physical world starts to represent this. And when the physical world starts to represent this, this identity of the past will fade away. So just remember that you cannot have a new experience by thinking you know how it's going to unfold, which is where faith steps in. Faith is room for this new environment to unfold. Now, we've talked about overcoming the environment. We've talked about overcoming the body. But now, let's talk about overcoming time. Oh, marker on the carpet, marker on the carpet. Time is a man-made construct. Now, how could time be man-made? You're like, Grant, the universe has progressed at all this place. What do you mean time's a man-made construct? The core understanding of this concept is that we exist in the eternal now. That the quantum field, that infinite energy I talk about, is actually all that we have. But the issue with humans is that we live in a state of fearing past repetition or anticipation of a future that we don't know is going to unfold. And if you really look at this, if you're living in either state, you're never truly living in the present. And the present is actually where you have access to all the energy. That 99.9% potential we talk about only exists in the present. Because this is a fake reality, and your anticipation of the future is a fake reality. So it's actually about learning to come back to the present, which is why meditation is so important, which is why overcoming your concepts of your body and your environment is so important. Because you'll slowly start to realize, like, oh my God, I'm creating these false realities for myself. I'm actually the thing causing all the chaos that I want to run away from. Now, research shows that we can biologically change our brain and experience through aligning with the future that doesn't exist yet. But if we're repeatedly visiting past memories or visiting anxieties of a future, we're not going to truly be able to do that because there's going to be that resistance. The thoughts and emotions are not going to resonate at the same frequency. And we use our attention to focus on the things we want versus the things we don't want. That's another thing that prevents the manifestations from coming to life. Is focusing on what we don't want. When you focus on what you don't want, you create that resistance, you create that polarization. So the universe is just going to bring more of that back to you. Because you're saying, I don't want that, I'm trying to avoid it. And the universe is like, here, take it. That's the polarization. That's how the universe and energy meet in the middle. Now, this is why the eventual goal is to get to a place of no thing. You have to want nothing and you will have everything. This is where that paradox comes back in. And as soon as you can start to grasp these concepts, they're not that complex. You just got to let your ego subside. How is it that I can want no thing and have everything? In order to understand the concept of wanting nothing, we're going to have to break down the word no thing. So what Dr. Joe Dispenza introduces us to through talking about the concept of the quantum you is that because, coming full circle now, guys, because beyond the atom and on that subatomic particle level at the electron cloud, this exists as 99.999% potential. The fabric of our experience doesn't even exist in the physical world yet. It doesn't exist in the material world yet. So we are actually 99.9999% no thing until observed. Which means it's our natural state. This is where I'm telling you it's about the death of resistance, about the death of the fighting, about the not creating polarization about what you don't want, but focusing on what you do want. And as soon as we align with this no thing and we align with the frequency of the quantum field of the present moment, and we exist beyond body, environment, and time, you truly resonate at this frequency. You're truly resonating at the same frequency of the quantum, the pure potentiality. And when you do this long enough, you channel more of this into your life. So wanting nothing is actually going to attract everything. Because you're signaling to the universe, hey, I truly understand the concept now. I understand that I already am everything. This is where mind is matter, the two sides of the spectrum. And you have to transcend the duality. Hot and cold are not different. They're just the same spectrum of temperature. Right? So to desire is the same thing as allowing the universe to give you what's yours, except one is forced and one is rooted in power. To allow gives permission for what's yours to step in, and you don't have to fight it because you understand that the universe naturally unfolds harmoniously. And this is how you can truly manifest using Dr. Joe Dispenza's teachings. So make sure to get into deep states of meditation, whether that's journaling, whether that's breathing, whether that's actually meditating, whether that's working with yourself as experiences arise in life. And remember, you understand that you are starting to change when you are no longer defining validation based on how you feel, what the external world tells you, and how much time it's going to take for these things to happen. And only then can you truly exist in the state of nothingness and attract everything to you once you collapse that reality into experience as a conscious creator. So if you like this video, drop a subscribe and I'll see you in the next one.